35%. More than a third of people, when given a false description of something traumatic from their childhood, will eventually believe it genuinely happened to them. Not suspect it, not entertain the possibility, believe it. With emotion, with physical sensation, with the kind of quiet, unshakable certainty that you'd bet your life on. The proof exists, it's been replicated, and by the time this video ends, you'll understand exactly how it's done, and whether it might have already happened to you. Stick around. The test is at the end, and it's the bit that tends to leave people a bit shaken. There's something deeply personal about memory. It's tied to identity in a way that almost nothing else is. Your memories aren't just things that happened. They're the story of who you are. Strip them away, and the sense of self starts to wobble, which is exactly why what we're about to discuss is so uncomfortable. Because if someone can slip a false memory into that story, into your story, without you noticing, without your permission, without even meaning to, then the ground shifts a little under your feet. Elizabeth Loftus understood this better than almost anyone alive. She wasn't a clinician treating patients with memory disorders. She was a cognitive psychologist asking a more radical question. Can a completely ordinary person be made to remember something that never occurred? Her work starting in the 1990s didn't just answer that question. It answered it in a way that made the scientific community deeply uncomfortable and forced courts, therapists, and journalists to reconsider everything they thought they knew about human testimony. Here's something I want you to sit with before we go further. Think of a moment from your childhood that you believe shaped you emotionally. Something that made you feel frightened, or small, or overwhelmed. Have one? Don't overthink it. Just let it surface. Now, are you sure it happened the way you remember it? The year is 1995. Elizabeth Loftus and researcher Jacqueline Pickrell are about to run what will become one of the most cited and most debated experiments in the history of psychology. Here's what they did, and I want you to notice how straightforward this is, because the simplicity is part of what makes it so disturbing. 24 participants were recruited. For every single one of them, a trusted family member, someone close, someone credible, was contacted beforehand. That relative provided 3 genuine childhood memories specific to the participant. Actual events, things that could be verified. A family barbecue that got rained off. Nearly choking on something at a relative's house. Falling off a bike at a particular age. These 3 real memories were written up in short paragraph form and placed into a booklet. Then Loftus added a 4th. The fictional memory described a child, aged around 5, becoming separated from their family in a busy shopping center. The child was distressed. A kind elderly stranger intervened and kept the child calm until the family were reunited. Nothing extreme, nothing fantastical, just a mundane, emotionally resonant scenario that could plausibly belong to almost any childhood. Participants read the booklet, wrote down whatever came to mind for each memory, and returned for 2 follow-up sessions where they were asked to try harder, to concentrate, to reach for whatever details might be lurking. Now here's the question. If you were handed a memory that your family supposedly confirmed, written in the same calm, matter-of-fact tone as 3 things you know actually happened, would you question it? Most people wouldn't. 25% of participants came back in subsequent sessions with elaborations. Not vague impressions, elaborations. One person recalled the specific area of the mall where they'd been separated. Another described the emotional quality of the moment they spotted their parent again. A third added a detail about the stranger offering to buy them something from a nearby kiosk. None of these details were in the original paragraph. Every single one was generated by the participant's own mind, assembled from imagination, emotion, and the quiet authority of a printed page signed off by a family member. And the most striking thing? When researchers finally revealed which memory was false, a handful of participants didn't immediately accept it. Because the memory didn't feel false, it felt like theirs. Here's the analogy that I think comes closest to what's actually happening. Imagine your memory is a Wikipedia page. It was written by the version of you that experienced the original event, but it's not locked. Anyone can edit it. Every time you visit that page, it gets slightly updated. Other people's accounts slip in, photos you've seen since add new sentences. Things you heard years later quietly revise a paragraph. And unlike actual Wikipedia, there's no edit history. There's no last modified by log. The page just looks the way it looks, and you have no way of knowing how many hands have been through it. This is the misinformation effect in practice. It describes the brain's tendency to absorb post-event information, suggestions, stories, assumptions, and integrate them into an existing memory without flagging the addition. The original trace and the new material get stored together, and retrieval brings them both up as a single coherent whole. What makes the Mall study particularly revealing is this. The false memory wasn't about a neutral event. It was about distress, about being a frightened child. And yet, the emotional weight of the scenario didn't protect against false memory formation. If anything, the emotional plausibility made the brain more willing to engage with it. Researchers who followed up on Loftus's findings across multiple independent studies consistently found false memory rates in the region of 22%. That figure held across different nationalities, different ages, different types of suggested memories. The vulnerability isn't cultural or generational, it's structural. It's baked into the architecture of how human memory actually functions. The takeaway is quietly devastating. The more a suggested memory feels like something that would have happened to you, the more likely your brain is to accept it as something that did. Let me walk you through some scenarios that probably won't feel that distant. You're talking with your mom about a house you lived in when you were 4, a place you haven't thought about in years. She describes the kitchen, the yellow curtains, the smell of the carpet in the hall. 2 days later, you find yourself with a memory of sitting in that kitchen. You can feel the chair, you can almost smell it, but did you actually retain that? Or did your brain take your mom's description, model the scene, and file the model under memory rather than imagined reconstruction? Here's another one. A sibling tells you about a time you cried uncontrollably at a fun fair when you were 6, the noise, the lights, the overwhelm of it all. You have no memory of this, but 6 months later there's something there. A vague sense of being small in a loud crowd, the edges of a feeling. Did that get planted? You genuinely can't know for certain. Now, scale this up to the legal system, and you start to understand why Loftus spent decades working with lawyers in criminal courts. In the UK and elsewhere, witness recall remains central to criminal prosecutions. But the act of being interviewed, even gently, even carefully, can alter what a witness remembers. The sequence in which questions are asked matters. Seeing news coverage before giving a statement matters. Being told what another person claims to have seen can quietly rewrite your own account. 2 people can observe the same incident, be interviewed separately under mildly different conditions, and emerge with contradictory memories that each feel completely, honestly true. Neither is lying, both are mistaken. And there is currently no reliable way to tell a genuine memory from a false one simply by listening to how confidently it's delivered. Think back to the emotional memory I asked you to bring up at the start. Let's examine it properly. Ask yourself, who else was present in this memory? Here's the catch. If no one else was there, no one can confirm or contradict what you remember. Your brain had the story entirely to itself. That's a lot of creative freedom. Now ask, how many times have you talked about this memory? Every retelling is an opportunity to revise. Details get smoothed. Rough edges get explained. The story gets tighter, more coherent, and strangely, that coherence is a warning sign, not a reassurance. And finally, does this memory have a feeling to it, a texture, an atmosphere that seems almost too complete? Genuine childhood memories tend to be piecemeal. They show up as sensory scraps, a specific light, a sound that doesn't connect to anything, the feeling of a surface under your hand. They're rarely whole scenes. If yours plays out like a short film, wide shot, close-up, emotional resolution, someone may have edited it for you. And that someone might have been you. Here's what I keep coming back to from everything Loftus uncovered. We don't distrust our memories because we've checked them and found them wanting. We trust them by default, because doubting your own mind feels like madness. But the evidence says something different. It says, your past is not a fixed thing. It's a living, breathing, editable account, and it has been edited probably more than once without your knowledge. That's not a reason to panic. It's a reason to stay curious. If this got under your skin a bit, leave a comment below. I genuinely love to know which part hit hardest. And if you know someone who's never questioned a single memory in their life, this might be the video to share with them.